Hello and welcome to Outdoorsy, the podcast that is redefining the word itself. I'm your host, Madeline. Welcome to today's bonus episode and special treat for you all in honor of Halloween, and also just because this is truly the most stressful and longest week of our lives leading up to the election. Um, this bonus episode is free for everybody. So, in case you are new here, usually I have bonus episodes that come out every 2 weeks that are available only to my Patreon subscribers. But I just decided that we could all use a little bit of a treat this week for a lot of different reasons and wanted to make this free and available for everybody. My bonus episodes are usually like a deep dive into something that is like very well researched. One of my episodes was about like all of the outdoorsy brands that I have been following and how they rank in different levels of diversity, equity, sustainability efforts, and that kind of thing. The other one was a deep dive into my thoughts and opinions on gatekeeping and geotagging, including research and stuff. So, like, usually they're a lot more serious and well thought out. But again, this week has been the longest week of our lives, and it is only Thursday. So I thought, let's not go into super serious topics. Let's just talk about something fun. And I asked you all what I should talk about, and a couple people suggested, like, why don't you just share some fun, silly stories from your adventures? And I figured that is the perfect topic. So I'm going to be talking about some of the mistakes and mishaps that I have encountered in my outdoor adventures so that you can learn from my mistakes because I've made a lot of mistakes. But before we get into it, just a tiny bit of housekeeping and little reminders. The number one housekeeping thing and reminder I have for you all is please, for the love of God, go vote. I cannot stress this enough. At this point, everything that can be possibly said has already been said. So I'm not going to like preach at you in terms of like political discourse here, but I do want to make sure that you know how important your voice is, especially if you are in a swing state. A vote not for Kamala Harris, a vote that is third party or a vote that is not cast, is a vote for Trump at this point. So just please keep that in mind. Unfortunately, we live in the reality today that it's going to be Kamala Harris or it's going to be Donald Trump. So please, please, please just let your voice be heard. If you need help figuring out how to vote, where to vote, all those types of things, you can go to vote.org or you can go to iwillvote.com. Okay, enough with that because I know we are all so tired and so burnt out of the political discourse. I know I am. I even just watching the Daily Show last night, I was like, I can't even watch this. This is supposed to be funny and I am just too stressed out. So let's just jump into the silliness of this episode. If you're watching the video episode, I hope you are appreciating my apparel today in honor of Halloween. But if you're listening to the audio episode, hi, hello, you're missing out on a fantastic hat from my friend Cecilia. Her shop is called The Bookish Den. It is the cutest little hat of a little skeleton reading a book with a little rainbow. It's like the perfect combination of spooky and queer. And then I am wearing a t-shirt that says, "It's frickin' bats, I love Halloween. If you know, you know." So now that we've laid the groundwork, let's just jump into some of the mistakes that I have made while I have been on my outdoorsy adventures. So in case you are new to this podcast and you don't know me very well, I have been an outdoorsy person my whole life. I grew up going camping with my dad, but then I kind of took a break, a breather during college and stuff because I never really felt like I fit into the traditional outdoorsy community. And then only in 2019 is when I really started to go hiking and camping by myself as an adult in my mid 20s. And now here we are in 2024. I hike, camp regularly, but my whole vibe is kind of just like cozy camping. I don't do anything super crazy. I don't go on backcountry backpacking trips. I'm not, scaling crazy mountains. I like going for slow, easy, casual hikes, and I like sitting by a fire and enjoying a beverage and my book in the great outdoors. Like that is my entire vibe. But I still consider myself very outdoorsy. So I go camping and hiking mostly alone. So most of these stories revolve around me doing something stupid while I was by myself. So let's just get into it. So one of the dumbest things I have ever done was last summer, I was out at Mount Hood at the Lost Lake campground. And I made two really serious mistakes that I can look back on now and laugh, but oh my God, at the time, terrible. So the first thing I did that was really, really dumb was I wanted to wake up at sunrise to shoot photos of Mount Hood because if you know the Lost Lake campground, it has like this beautiful lake with this gorgeous view of the mountain. Like it just is unbelievable, so picturesque. So in the morning, I drove down from my campsite down to the day use area and started unloading all my photography gear. I also had Harper, my dog, with me. In my stupidity, I was like, "Oh, I'm just walking down the slight little hill down to the water. I'm gonna just wear my slip-on Birkenstocks and I'm just gonna carry all of my stuff in my hands." Rather than being smart and putting on shoes that actually have laces and a little bit more structure, and instead of putting all of my important camera equipment in a backpack or a bag or something like that so I could have my hands free, no, I decided I was going to try to carry everything all at once, wear these stupid slide on Birkenstocks, and also hold on to Harper's leash. So she's pulling me. And I'm like shuffling down this hill, and I have realized I have made a fatal error as soon as my foot slips. I don't know really what happened, but obviously I'm going to slip. And I'm carrying all this stuff and off balance. So I slipped, I fell forward. Somehow I managed to still hold on to my camera and not drop that. I don't know how I did that. But I fell like rib cage first onto this log that was across the pathway. And in that moment, I knew something was so wrong. So wrong. But being the stubborn, high pain tolerance person that I am, and also just hyper independent. And also, I think there was a little bit of like embarrassment, even though nobody saw this happen to me. I just was embarrassed at myself. I just got right back up, brushed myself off, and I was like, oh, whoopsies, like, I'm fine. But I was in so much pain immediately after that in my rib cage. Like, it hurt so bad. But I was like, it just hurts because of the impact. Like, it just hurt. It's fine. Everything's fine. I've had a broken rib before. I know what that feels like, gaslighting myself into thinking that it's not as serious as it was. And then I went about my entire rest of my trip, which included paddleboarding like 7 miles, just being like, yeah, this is really, really painful, but it's okay. And you guys, let me tell you, I still, even when I got back from that trip and I literally could not move, I still refused to get an x-ray because I was like, look, an x-ray is going to cost money. It's going to tell me what I already know because at that point I was in such excruciating pain. I knew for sure I had at least one broken rib, probably two. It was so unbearable, the pain. Like I couldn't even laugh, I couldn't even cough, I could barely move. It was so bad. But I still was like, I'm not gonna go get an x-ray because I already know it's broken. They're just gonna tell me it's broken and to rest. Like they're gonna tell me something I already know and it's gonna cost me hundreds of dollars. So why would I go to the doctors? So anyways, fast forward to a year and almost a half later now, and I still have rib pain constantly because I didn't rest my damn rib and let it heal properly. So I still like if you learn anything from me, like if you get an injury out on the trail or while you're by yourself, like even if you have a great trip planned, even if you think, oh, the doctor is going to tell me what I already know, just go to the damn doctor. Like, please learn from me. Go to the doctor because they might need to like reset it. You don't know. You don't want to heal wrong. And also, freaking rest. I went on a camping trip the next weekend after this. I did not rest at all. I was in so much pain constantly, and I just pushed through it and gaslit myself. I don't know what I was thinking, but now I'm paying the price. I probably will have chronic pain in my rib cage because I was stupid. And so just please learn from my mistake, okay? So that was mistake number one at the Lost Lake campground. Mistake number two, let me just tell you, this is an important one. If you camp or hike alone, please, please, please listen to the lesson that I'm about to teach you from this other mistake. So again, I am down at the day use area at this lake and I was unpacking all my stuff. So I had Harper out of the car and I have a very old Subaru Outback. It's a 2012. it has a bunch of kind of like weird little quirks about it. And one of the quirks is that my clicker doesn't work no matter how many batteries I replace in it. The people at the repair shop like can't figure out why it doesn't work. They can't figure out how to get me any kind of like functionality for any automatic locks. So in order to lock my car, I have to go into my car, sit in my driver's seat, click the lock all doors button, then unlock the driver's side door, and then manually lock the driver's side door before I shut the door. So it's like this whole process. But basically, since I'm not using my car keys to lock up my car, I'm like manually doing it on the door. In this moment, locked my keys in my car because I didn't need my keys to lock my door, so I wasn't thinking about where they were. Usually I have them on my person, in my pocket, like somewhere. But since I was by myself and I was juggling all these things and I had Harper, I just wasn't thinking about it. And will you believe it? I locked my keys in my car. I locked my Garmin GPS communication device in the car. I also locked my phone in the car. So I had literally zero way of contacting anybody for any help. Thank God. I like truly thank God. I was at a campsite that had camp hosts and a camp store and that kind of thing. There's no cell service out there, so I couldn't borrow somebody's phone, but they did have a satellite phone that I asked to use. I was so stressed out and I had Harper with me, but I had nothing else. I also don't even think I was wearing pants. Like, I think that I was wearing my bathing suit with like a big t-shirt over it. Yeah, I don't think I had pants on. Maybe I did. Maybe I just had like booty shorts on, but like just had nothing on me. No money, no way, nothing. So I go to the camp store and I'm like in tears. I'm like, I can't bring my Harper in the camp store. So I had to leave Harper outside. And I asked the people, can I please use your satellite phone? They were lovely, let me use it. I called my husband, explained the whole thing, and then he was able to call a locksmith to come out to help me. But I had to wait for like an hour for the locksmith to come out there. So yeah, it was a lot of good lessons learned from this particular situation because if I had not been at that campground, y'all, I would have been so screwed. I genuinely don't know what I would have done. I would have had to like walk and hopefully find somebody that could help me. I don't know. Like truly, no phone, no wallet, no com device, like nothing. I had nothing on me. So, a few lessons to be learned, okay? The number one thing is that I always have my phone, my keys, and usually my Garmin. Now, on my body at all times. So whether that is in pockets, making sure they're in pockets, or the number one thing that I do is I have like a fanny pack that I just put everything in and then I just strap it to my body. And if I am doing anything, whether it's like setting up, tearing down, whatever it is, I have that on my person so I don't accidentally lock it in my car. The other thing I did is I got a spare key, one of those like spare key boxes that has like a little code, so only you can open it, and it is somewhere, I'm not going to tell you where, but somewhere on my car, so I can access that in case I do make this mistake again. At least I have a spare key somewhere. Um, but yeah, oh my God, I don't know what I would have done. It was so stupid. Oh my God, terrible. I'm so embarrassed that that happened to me, and I can't believe that these two disasters happened in the same trip and at the same place. I really want to go back to that campground, but I'm afraid it's like cursed for me. That's also where I had like a really creepy encounter with a man being like asking me if he can skinny dip in front of me and being super creepy. I've shared about this on my TikTok before, but like so strange because that campground is so lovely and incredible and well appointed, well taken care of. The views are incredible. Like everything about it should be perfect, but for some reason, my experience there was just like a nightmare. So I don't know. I think I need to go back and see if I can like break this curse. But um on a similar note, in terms of like losing things and making mistakes where I don't know how I got out of that situation. I have another story that involves losing my phone, actually. So a while back, I was photographing a wedding in Lake Chelan. If you don't know, I am a wedding photographer. So I was out at Lake Chelan and it was like early May. So it was still where the water was like really, really cold, but it was a warm day, one of those first warm weekends where it's like everybody is outside, right? So I had planned on, since Chelan is really far from me, I had planned on staying the night and then going paddleboarding on the Columbia River because even though it was cold, I was like, I don't think it's gonna be too cold. I have a life vest and stuff, if I do fall in or something, I'll be okay. Um, and so I decided to go out paddleboarding the day after the wedding. Please, again, this is one of those things where it's like, do as I say, not as I do, please, because I did not wear my life jacket. And looking back now, that was so dumb for how cold that water was. I could have died. Like, genuinely, cold water shock is not something to joke about. It is so serious. And the fact that I wasn't wearing a life jacket on this very, very cold river, like, big mistake. But I did it. So just please learn from my mistakes. If you are going somewhere where the water is cold, I think it's actually, let me look up what the actual temperature is so I can tell you. So if the water is below 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius, you can get cold water shock. So, like, it says water that is 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit can be deadly in less than a minute because you can get shock. So it definitely was lower than this. So I would say the water was probably like 55 degrees. Stupid of me not to do that. So if you are going out into water, wherever it might be, even if you think you're a strong swimmer, even if you think like you're fine, you're not going to fall in, like, let me tell you, your brain might do something stupid like my brain did. Because I didn't fall in. I voluntarily jumped into the water. You know why? I was dumb and I took my cell phone out of the little waterproof case that I have tethered to my paddleboard so that it doesn't fall into the water. I took it out because I was like, I want to take some pictures and video of this. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I will never do that again. I took my phone out and I don't know what happened, but I'm just holding my phone and the next thing I know, my phone is just out of my hand and sinking into the bottom of the Columbia River. Like, don't know what happened. It just jumped out of my hands on its own accord. And in this moment, because all of these different things were compounding in my head that caused me to panic and jump in after my phone, I am thinking about how that's my cell phone. I also am not familiar with this area at all. I need my cell phone to be able to navigate home. I don't know where I am. I need my Google Maps. I also like just I don't know where I'm going. So in my head, I thought, oh, I could jump in after this phone. It's not going to sink that fast. I can jump in and I can grab it before it goes out of, my sight. If you have ever been to the Columbia River in Washington, you know that about a foot deep into the water, it is completely opaque. You cannot see shit. You cannot see anything, especially that early in the season. Like, there's so much silt, so much dirt in the water. Like, you cannot see anything. So I don't know what I was thinking I could jump in after it and swim after it. I like also am wearing my glasses. Like, I can't see anything. Like, anyways, but in my mind, in this panic state, I jump in after my phone immediately. And I am so lucky I didn't get cold shock. Truly, I don't know how I didn't. It took my breath away. It was so cold. And then I'm like frantically flailing my arms around in the water because I was thinking that, like, oh, I could grab my phone. Like, if I, if I'm splaying my arms all over, I'm gonna hit my phone, I'll be able to grab it. I don't know. I apparently thought I had superhuman abilities. At one point, my hand did bump my phone, which just pushed it further deep into the water. Obviously, I did not get my phone. And then I am back up at the surface of the water, feeling like a complete failure and an idiot. I have to like climb back up onto the paddleboard like a, beached whale, soaking wet, freezing cold, no phone in the middle of the Columbia River in an area that I am not familiar with. Never want to be in that position again. So then I had to do the paddle of shame back to my car. Thankfully, I remembered where I had parked and put in to get in. So I make my way back there, but that was like 45 minutes of paddling in silence and in deep, deep, deep shame and regret. And here is the lesson that I want everybody to learn from me. Obviously, what I already said about life jackets and swimming in cold water and all that jazz. And then also keeping your phone tethered to something so that it doesn't sink to the friggin' bottom. But the other thing I want everybody to have is a backup communication device. Because if I had not had a backup communication device in this situation, I have no idea how I would have gotten home. Again, I would have had to rely on a stranger in this situation. I would have had to go find somebody and ask them for help. But thank God I had my Garmin GPS that I could message my husband and be like, hey, I'm an idiot. Here's what happened. Can you please send me directions on how to get home? And actually, I had a backup cell phone too in my car, my old Google Pixel. So I was able to have him send me directions to get to a Starbucks so I could connect that phone to Wi-Fi. And then I was able to connect that phone to Wi-Fi, download directions, download what I needed, and that kind of thing, and then get home safely. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you all to carry a second backup communication device. And this is another reason why I always preach about having a Garmin InReach Mini or some sort of satellite communication device, because like a lot of the time people talk about this being useful for when you don't have cell service, but it's also useful if something happens to your phone because we can't always be relying on our phones. They could sink to the bottom of the Columbia River. They could fall out of your hand on a hike and fall down a ravine that it's not safe to go after. Like they could break, something could happen, they could die. Like you just never know. And I feel like now I am never ever going to rely on my phone. I always want to be able to go out and be like, okay, if I did not have my cell phone with me right now, would I be okay? Would I be able to figure out how to get home, how to call for help? If not, then I need to do something else in place. So, yeah, learn from my mistakes there, please. Okay, I have another one. This is not really a mistake. This is just like a silly story. Actually, my dad tells this story in the podcast episode I recorded with him. I'm going to be releasing that around Thanksgiving. But I'll tell it here for anybody who's listening. Just because it's like a funny story. It's not really a mistake or anything, but my dad and I in like 2017 or something, 2016, 2017, went for a hike up to Lake Serene and Bridalveil Falls. And it's a pretty challenging hike. And it's a long hike, at least, for us casual hikers. And it was kind of like a rainy, gloomy, nasty day. And so we get to the top all the way up to Lake Serene, and it's totally socked in, totally foggy, totally cloudy. You can't see anything. You can barely see the water out in front of you. And there were a bunch of other people that were at the top too, and everybody's kind of like quiet and a little somber, a little bummed. Everybody's just kind of like, okay, well, we made it all this way for this view and we can't see it. So we're just gonna rest and then head back down. It was like not a good vibe. But my dad and I were like, let's just sit for a little bit and see if it clears up. And waited and waited and waited. And then all of the sudden, it was like curtains parting and a show beginning. The fog opened up, the clouds opened up, and then you could see, I forget what mountain peak it is, but you could just like see this giant cathedral of mountain and rock, and you could see the water so much more clearly. And it just was so glorious and stunning. And in this moment, I lost all awareness of anybody around me, and I just go, holy shit. Like so loud. Keep in mind, it has been so quiet and so somber, and everybody's like so bummed. And then there's me, this like at the time, God, in my early 20s, just like, holy shit. And in that moment, it like broke the tension though, and everybody started laughing. Everybody that was up there just like lost it, and everybody was having such a good time, just like laughing and so relieved that we could finally see the view. But oh my God, I was so embarrassed like immediately after. I was like, oh my God, why did I do that? And I'm sure there's some people that went home and they were like, there was this really annoying girl at the top of this hike that was like swearing and freaking out, but whatever. It's just a funny story. Okay, let's see. What other stories do I have to tell you? How's everybody doing? Hopefully this is like a fun little episode, a fun little treat for everybody during a very stressful time. I'm having a good time. Bought my second cup of coffee now, so if you can tell. But let's see. This is just a little anecdote. I have stepped in shit a couple of times. Not animal poo poo, human doo doo multiple times. This is like one of my least favorite parts of dispersed camping is that people literally do not pick up their shit and they don't take care of it properly. So like if you actually the very first time I tried to go dispersed camping, I pulled up to the spot, I got out of my car, and I kid you not, I shit you not, stepped in poop immediately. Like one step out of the car, next step in shit. I it was so disgusting and horrifying. It put me off to disperse camping for so long. And then I have done it obviously a bunch since then and, gotten, a little bit more paranoid about checking the ground for human feces, but the other day I actually went out to this like really lovely spot and I was like kind of walking around exploring it a little bit and I stepped in shit again and I was like, "Really?" Like, and it's human, like and it's just so annoying. Like, it does not take that much effort. If you really do have to go in the outdoors, just dig a hole or grab a doggy bag. Like, I am sure you have a doggy bag in your car or a plastic bag, Ziploc bag or something. Or, like, dig a hole, flick it into the wood, get a stick and flick it into the woods. Like, anything. Don't leave it in, like, the main walking path. Also, what are you doing? Like, taking a shit right by the road? Like, are you crazy? Anyways, this happens. I feel like this has happened to me more than I'd like to admit. Like most people are like, "Oh, that's never happened to me," and it's happened to me multiple times. So maybe that's a me problem. I need to be like more aware of my surroundings, I guess. I don't know, but God, let's just all agree that if we have to do our business in the outdoors, we pick up after ourselves because we would for our dogs. So why would we not for ourselves? It's just gross. Okay, I want to tell you the story about the time that I scared a bear. So this is another good like learning lesson for me and for everybody else hopefully listening. Last September I went on a hike out on the northern side of Tahoma. If you don't know, Tahoma is the one of the many indigenous names for Mount Rainier. So I usually call it Tahoma. So I was on the north side of Tahoma. I was hiking. Oh, what was I? Oh, I hiked Summit Lake, which is a beautiful hike. If you haven't done it yet, incredible. Just be aware the road up there is like incredibly rough and very challenging to navigate. And also there are no services up there, so like please take care of it if you do go up there because it's one of the coolest hikes I've ever done. But I had gone up there for sunset because I really just I like going on these hikes for sunset or sunrise, especially if they're at a fire lookout or equivalent because or like a really gorgeous, big, vast, expansive lookout like that because even if there's not like a lookout structure, like there isn't one at Summit Lake, it's just when you can see these colors changing in the horizon, it makes you feel like you're part of another world. Like it's just I can't even explain it. So anyways, I went at sunset, which then means you do hike down in the dark, which is always not ideal, right? But I, at this point, have had enough experience. I feel confident hiking in the dark, especially if I'm hiking, somewhere where it's not like a crazy hike, not super technical, anything like that. So I'm hiking down in the dark, and I did know that this was a territory where bears lived. I knew this. So I had my bear spray actually in my hand as I was walking down the trail. But the one thing I kind of forgot about, just I don't know why, but I think it was just the fact that I'm walking down in the dark. You get this like feeling that you should be quiet. Like you don't like every noise you make feels so loud when you're in the dark. So I forgot that like you need to be making noise on the trail when you are in bear country because you don't want to startle a bear and you want bears to know that you're coming. You're big, you're loud, that kind of thing. You don't want them to be startled because that would be really bad, right? I don't know. I just forgot this. So I'm hiking down. At least I had my bear spray in my hand, but there was a switchback that I was, walking around, turning around the corner, and I I'm so thankful that my headlamp did not shine on anything, so I didn't see this for sure, but I heard something massive, massive right next to me move and run into the woods. It must have been either on the trail or right next to the trail. Like I must have almost brushed shoulders with it. I cannot tell you how incredibly massive this presence was and how incredibly loud it was when it ran away. But I think I scared the ever loving shit out of this bear. And of course, that scared the shit out of me. And I was so terrified. And that's like my first real encounter with a bear. I've encountered bears in a couple other situations that were like way more removed and way more controlled. This was the first time that I was like hiking by myself, really vulnerable, and encountering a bear. And it was so scary, you guys. The whole rest of that hike on the way down, like I think if you look at my All Trails recording or my Strava recording, I'm like my pace, I'm hustling down the rest of that trail because it was so scary. So this is my just cautionary tale to you to make sure that you are making a lot of noise on the trail and be holding your bear spray, because I'm so glad I had it in my hand because it was so sudden and it was so startling to both me and the bear. Like I would not have had time to like reach behind or kind of like fumble around to grab my bear spray. I didn't obviously end up spraying it because it ran away, but like if I had needed to deploy it, I'm so glad I had it in my hand because otherwise I think I would have been dead, like honestly. So definitely just have your bear spray really readily available and make noise on trail. Like, yeah, learn from me there, please. All right, I have one last kind of like silly story. I guess not necessarily silly, but just another story of me making mistakes in the outdoors so that you don't have to. But this was the very first time that I went out camping by myself as an adult. I just had gotten a sleeping bag and like a headlamp, and I think that was it. Like I hadn't really gotten any supplies yet, but I was like, I'm gonna sleep in my Subaru. I'm gonna be good. Like this is all I need. So I decided I wanted to go out to Mount Rainier to Tahoma and camp there. This is where I'm like so annoyed at myself looking back, but all we can do is learn from our mistakes and, commit to doing better in the future, right? I didn't do like any research on the legality of camping in your car at the national park. So at Mount Rainier National Park, you cannot camp anywhere unless you have a backcountry permit for certain areas or in the designated campground. So you can't just like sleep in your car at a trailhead. Actually, honestly, most trailheads, not just at the national park, don't allow you to sleep in your car at the trailhead. So I hadn't done any of this research before. I don't really know what I was thinking. I think I just wasn't thinking, which is, my bad. I shouldn't have done that. And now I know like to do endless research before I camp. But this is my first time doing this as an adult. So whatever. I went out and I camped at a trailhead. Don't do that. Stupid. I actually was like so nervous the whole time because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know any of the rules. So I didn't sleep at all. And that's one of the things that I like tell everybody is like, do so much research, bring all the things that you could possibly think that you need, like be over prepared because otherwise you're not going to be able to relax and enjoy yourself and like truly appreciate why you're out there. So that was my situation then was I was like, great, I'm happy I'm here, but I am not having a good time at all because I don't know what I'm doing. So I camped in a spot that I wasn't supposed to camp at. And then the other thing that actually like kills me now is that I went to Reflection Lake. And if anybody knows that, that's like the most photographed spot in Mount Rainier National Park. Tahoma is like beautiful. There's a lake here. The reflection on the lake is gorgeous if it's clear. So I went and I shot photos at sunrise, which was gorgeous and incredible. But I like at the time, because this was like several years ago, at the time there were not as many signs that say like stay on the paved trail. So in this, I was looking and there were a bunch of, like cat tracks, like the trails that people have made in the brush that was like on the other side of the main barrier. The other part too was there was a bunch of other photographers that were like in this area. So I was like, well, if other photographers are there and it obviously looks like this area has been like carved out as a little trail, I can go down there too. That's fine. So I actually like hopped over the barrier. There weren't any signs, but I hopped over the barrier, which I should have been like the first signal to me that this isn't allowed. The fact that there was a barrier, period. And I took photos there. I took photos off trail at Mount Rainier National Park. And I, like, looking back, I'm so horrified and embarrassed that I did this. But I was following the lead of all these other people that were there and looking at the human made tracks and thinking that that was okay. Now I know so much better. I know that cat tracks are oftentimes signals that that is a area that is definitely not okay, especially if it is right next to an area that is designated paved or designated groomed trail. if there are little pathways leading off of somewhere that don't look like they're quote unquote official, that usually means that like you should not be going there. But people have been shitty and have made those paths. So, anyways, now I know better. And I also know better that, like, just in general at Mount Rainier National Park, you should not be going off trail ever, even if you see other people doing it. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting on photographers and other people, because at that time, I was not a professional photographer. I didn't know anything. I didn't even have like good equipment at that point. I was not making money on photography. I hadn't even shot my first wedding, I don't think, at that point. So I was looking at all these other people who were very clearly professional photographers and following their lead. That's why when I see professional photographers online clearly violating leave no trace, clearly stomping on meadows, clearly off trail, clearly just like violating all these rules and regulations, I get on them because I'm like, you are a professional, you should know better, and people are looking to you to set an example. I could talk about this for hours, but it makes me so angry. I give myself a little bit of grace because I didn't know what I was doing then. I wasn't a professional then. I hadn't done research. But like, if you're a professional photographer, you've done your research and you know better, and you know that people are looking to you to be the expert in this. So by violating these things, posting them online, you are saying that other people can do it too. And it's just it's so problematic. So, anyways, I just want to share that story because, yeah, I am not perfect. And I definitely, like, I've removed that image. Like, there's an image of me standing on a rock that's like outside of the main barrier at Reflection Lake. I've removed that from anywhere online because I don't want anybody seeing that. Like, even if I am like posting the caption, like this whole story or something like that, the bottom line is people could see that image and be like, oh, I want that photo. And then they go to Reflection Lake, they find that rock and they go stand on it and take that photo. I don't want anybody doing that because it was wrong and it was not okay. So learn from my mistakes. Make sure that even if you are not a professional photographer, you are doing lots of research of like where you can take photos, how you should be respectfully recreating in an area that it has protected meadows. And just because other people are doing it, just because other people are going off trail, other people are trampling on the meadows, other people are being dangerous or disrespectful or whatever it might be, doesn't mean that it's okay. Always listen to your gut, and if you see something, say something too. Like now I'm like not shy at all about telling people that they are doing something wrong in the national park. And if I were to see those photographers doing that kind of stuff again, I would say something. So yeah, just another mistake that I've made that now you can know better and avoid it. So, oh no, those are all my little stories that I can think of right now. I am sure I have plenty more, but I hope that like bearing my soul to you all and sharing my most embarrassing fails and silly stories and mistakes that I've made while adventuring in the outdoors helps you feel a little bit better. And it helps you make sure that you don't make the same mistakes I have made in the past. And yeah, I hope this was like a nice little treat for us all on Halloween, the week leading up to the election. Let's just all take a deep breath collectively, try to decompress, try to focus on like silly, happy things that can distract us in healthy ways this week. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode too, because moving forward, like these are all going to be, available only on my Patreon. So only if you're a Patreon subscriber. And you can also purchase individual episodes. I don't know if you know this. So like if you don't want to subscribe monthly to my Patreon, which does give you access to more stuff, like you can vote on things, you can like have discussions in there. You can also join the Discord community, which is like the perfect place for us to like actually chit chat and be more intimate with each other and build community. But if you don't want that, if you're like, no, I just want to purchase this episode, I just want to hear your thoughts on these outdoorsy brands in that one episode or whatever, you can purchase individual episodes too. So like there's options for you. It's also super cheap. It's the best way you can like support me and the production of this podcast and the production of all of my content. I don't get any money from really anything else. I would love to be doing this full time. That would be incredible. But I am so far away from that. So if you want to just like support me at all, think of it as buying me like a cup of coffee every month. Honestly, let's be real. Like a cup of coffee is more expensive than what the Patreon subscription is these days. It's only $5. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. And if I get 5 more Patreon subscribers by My next bonus episode, I'm going to be doing a shout out on one of the free episodes of everybody who has subscribed. So you are thanked by name. And then you will be added to like my early access list for when I do release merch in 2025. Oh, the one other thing is I am trying to make enough money through this podcast so that I can sign up for a wilderness first aid certification. Those wilderness first aid certification courses are usually like $400. So it's not something that I can afford right now since I'm currently unemployed. So if you would like to help support me getting that certification, that would be great because once I get that certification, then I can launch Cozy Camping Club. I don't feel comfortable hosting any kind of like group hikes, group camping trips, group hangouts in the outdoors unless I have wilderness first aid training. That is like a number one priority for me. So I will not be able to do that for you all and host those and organize those until I get this certification. So I'm hoping to do one in January so that in 2025 we can do group stuff. But I don't have the money for it right now. So if you want to help me get there, that would be so great. And just becoming a subscriber on Patreon is like the best way to do it. So that's it for me. Until next time, please keep in mind that however you choose to recreate outdoors, as long as you are doing it safely and responsibly and you are learning from my mistakes, you belong out there. And I hope that everybody gets outside in one way or another between now and next episode in a way that just feels good to them, whatever that might look like. But thank you for being here. And yeah, I'll see you all on the other side of this election. Well, at least we'll have each other no matter what happens. All right. Take care, y'all. Bye bye.